Where do chaplains offer presence? Where is the difference between a chaplain and a pastor? A pastor shepherds a congregation. A chaplain is not confined in the four corners of the church. As a chaplain, you listen to listen, not you listen to reply. For you to be a chaplain, you have to have a calling. Hi guys, welcome to the Chaplain's Mic. Here we talk about learning institutions and how chaplaincy can be done in the learning institutions. My name is Deborah Joy Juma. I am a chaplain at Kabarak University, and I love talking about chaplaincy because there are so many questions I get about why did I choose to be a chaplain at my age, because many people assume chaplains are older people who have been pastoring for some time. Others assume young people have no capacity of becoming chaplains, especially in learning institutions today. I will help you understand first what chaplaincy is, because this is kind of a wave that is in Kenya, and everyone is talking about what chaplaincy is and how it is done, and others are confused. Is there a difference between a chaplain and a pastor? I'll help you understand that in a nutshell, and then I'll let you know why I chose to be a chaplain at my age. Now, when we talk about chaplaincy, I'll first talk about who a chaplain is, and then I'll talk about chaplaincy. And a chaplain is basically, without going into complex or technical explanations, is simply a person who offers the ministry of presence. So chaplaincy is simply the ministry of presence. Now, where do chaplains offer presence? Chaplains offer presence in what we call pluralistic environments, or other people call them secularized environments. So you will see chaplains in spaces where people have faith and others don't have faith. For example, you see them in prisons, you see them in learning institutions, which I'll be talking a lot about because I work in a learning institution. You will see them in special units like sports, and where people who are able differently are. You will see them in the military and public service. You'll see them in hospitals and many other secularized places. So simply put, chaplaincy is that ministry that you offer, the presence that you offer in the secularized place. Now, where is the difference between a chaplain and a pastor, or are they related? I'll talk about how the two are related first, and then I'll try to show you the difference between the two ministries, because the context is purely different. Now, both the chaplain and the pastor receive training, and we call that pastoral training, because the chaplain has to have a foundation of faith, and they have to have a calling into offering the ministry of presence to people. The same as the pastor, they have to get a calling to pastor people. So the chaplain will work in a specific context, the secularized environment, while the pastor will shepherd a local community of believers. Mostly it is a denomination. For example, you have a pastor who is pastoring ACK, Deliverance Church, Adventist, and all that. And then now you have a chaplain who is working in this context where they are in this learning institution, in this prison, in this hospital, or wherever. So the contexts are very different in terms of where you work. So a chaplain shepherds a pluralistic environment, a pastor shepherds a congregation. So in that, that means that when a chaplain is approached, the chaplain has their faith as the foundation, but they cater for everyone. The pastor is only responsible for their congregation. If, for example, a person falls sick, a person needs discipleship and whatever, the pastor will take care of that congregation. So a chaplain is not confined in the four corners of the church. the way the pastor will have a congregation and these are his people and they own. What we call in chaplaincy that chaplaincy is a tactile ministry, because people come and go. You get, if you're in a learning institution like myself, students join first year and then in 4 years they are out of school, or 5 years if they're doing pharmacy, 7 years if they're doctors and engineers and all that. And or sometimes if they're doing short courses like diploma courses, certificate, they just take a year, 2 years and they're out. So they come and go. If you're working in a hospital, for example, a sick person will come and then they will either get better and go home, be discharged, or they will go to their Mecca. You know, if that makes sense. Yeah, they may actually die. So it means it's very tactile. A prisoner will come and then an inmate will come and then they will stay in prison for some time, and then once their period is over, they go home or they go to their community. So a chaplain has these people who are always coming and going. You have people coming and going. But when it comes to a pastoral context where you're a pastor, you have a congregation, and sometimes you may have a congregant who may even stay for 50 years in your congregation. Since they were a child, that is where they grew up. They grew up as Catholics, for example. They went through the training, and then after that, they became members of the Catholic faith, and then they grow, and finally they get married there. They come to your church until you even perform the last burial rites on them, if they ever die before you die as a chaplain, as a pastor. So as a pastor, you are limited. Also, we talk about where we work. A pastor, like I said, will work with a specific denomination. So if you go to different institutions, for example, I work at Kabarak University. It is a Christian university. So here we have Christian students, and have students also who are not Christians, but when they come here, they subscribe to the Christian faith. So as a chaplain, I will have to contextualize my chaplaincy ministry to Christian ministry, but also take care of the other students. But when you go to a church, for example, if you go to a Pentecostal church, you will have to be a pastor in that context without bringing in the different, what we call in my local dialect, mtaratara, the way you have organized things to start like this, to flow like this, because the Pentecostals are very charismatic in nature. So as a pastor, that is your context. And then also we look at leadership and we look at structure. Normally in a church, if it is an independent church, somebody has just started their church and they're calling it all these names you hear, Way to Heaven, Crossroad, Pointing to Jesus, Finger of Heaven, all those churches you hear about. So this person will have the way they want to run the church. If it's a mainstream church, for example, I come from the Baptist faith. We have the elders, we have the deacons, we have the pastors now, the senior pastor and the associate pastor. All these form up a board and they govern the church. Now, when you come to chaplaincy, for example, in learning institutions, there are structures that you follow, and normally it's hierarchical, where there is a leader. The chaplains fall somewhere in the leadership. It's different from the pastor, where sometimes the pastor is the overall or the overseer of the whole process. If I am a chaplain at a learning institution like in Kabara, the vice chancellor will be my boss. Then I fall somewhere in the hierarchy as a chaplain. So I have to give my services in line with the institutions and how the institution wants me to lead. If, for example, I'm in an institution like a Muslim or an Islamic-based institution like Umar University, let's say, I have to be a Muslim in the first place. Now, sometimes we wonder, again, let me also put it out this way, that also is a pastor, you don't move around a lot, because it's your local church. You are dealing with your local church. You are helping people from your church. You are supporting people from your church. But as a chaplain, you may find yourself moving out a lot because you deal with situational things. a student is in crisis, for example, in a learning institution, a student has been bereaved, you have to go here and there, you have to do mentorship that sometimes requires you to really live with people. Now, the main difference again between a pastor and a chaplain is how you do the ministry. A chaplain, like I said, they preach sometimes, but they offer mostly the ministry of presence. So what happens, for the chaplain to be present, they have to live among the people and do life like the people. Now, in a learning institution, learners are people too. They come from different backgrounds and they come with their different needs. And for you to understand them, you have to live with them, do life with them. Like myself, sometimes you'll find me playing table tennis with students. I just want to get to know them and get to create rapport with them. So as a chaplain, the rapport is more important as you do ministry. You have to really gel with the people you are working with. You have to model what faith looks to them, sometimes even without telling them that this is what you believe in. They look at what you are doing and how you are doing your life more than what you tell them. A pastor will come up with sermons and teach you or preach to you how you should do your life. Because the pastor will come, pastor the church, preach and go home. The chaplain is living among the people every single day. Like as a chaplain in the learning institution, I wake up in the morning, I go to school, I interact with students the whole day, I play games with them, I get to know them, I get to share my life with them, just life stories, and of course, best in the faith also. Now, like I said, there are students who have no faith orientation. They have not believed in any deity. So to accommodate them, you just share stories about your life. You let them share their stories, and then in the process of modeling what faith looks like by how you live your life, then you win them over to the faith that you desire them to join, or the values that you would like to instill in them. That is basically the main difference between a chaplain and a pastor. I hope that difference makes some sense to you and it's very clear. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is why then, if we have pastors, we have had pastors ever since, why is chaplaincy a thing right now? Why do we need chaplains? And like I said, chaplaincy is the ministry of presence. The world today, if there is something that the world craves for, is presence. People are looking for someone who will just sit with them and listen to them without judging or without waiting to respond. You know the way sometimes somebody texts you and you are waiting for the message to come so that you reply. Look at the message and you see typing. So you're waiting for that message to just land and then you reply immediately. Now, as a chaplain, you listen to listen, not you listen to reply. And that is what the world is looking for. There are people who only want to be seen and heard. There are people who only want for people to feel that they exist, they are living and they are present, they are here. And for you to do that, for someone to do that, a pastor may not have enough time. Because let's say, for example, you're pastoring a church of about 500 people. How will you be present on Sunday for the 500 people? You have to live among them. Then chaplaincy becomes very important. Let's say you have your students. You cannot just have someone coming on a Friday for PPI, for example, if you are a primary school teacher, for PPI on Friday, and then they preach and they go. That is pastoring, because these children or these students, these learners, we call them learners nowadays, these learners need somebody who is consistently walking with them, so that when you tell them that this is how faith is, they see how faith is in their lives. So that is one need. People want to be listened to. Number two, people want to be accepted. There is something about knowing that you belong. There is something about knowing that somebody is actually rooting for you and somebody is supporting you. And this person has to do it sometimes, actually oftentimes, with you in the picture. So, like in the learning institution at where I work, for example, I have some students who just want me to tell them that you belong here too. that yes, you're a Muslim, yes, you don't have any faith orientation, yes, you don't even see anything that is that makes sense in this faith thing, but listen, you are accepted and you are needed. And some of these students also, these learners, they come, for example, in our learning institutions with other needs more than intellectual. You know, when I was growing up, we used to be taught about intelligence, and would be told that if you are position 1 in school, you are intelligent. What they didn't tell us is that there are different types of intelligence. Number 1 in class, or position 1 in class, has what we call intellectual intelligence. This person is intellectually very intelligent. But there are other intelligences. We have social intelligence, where you know how to interact with people, you know what to tell people and what not to tell people, you know how to correct people, you know how to package your information in a compassionate way. And then there is also what we call emotional intelligence. When you are having this overwhelm of emotions, how do you behave? What comes out of your mind? That is also another kind of intelligence. And then we have adversity intelligence too, where you are in crisis, but you're able to contain yourself, or you're able to do something that you're able to do something in a calm way to bring the adversity down without coming out as if the crisis is going to finish your life up, you know. So we didn't know that all these intelligences are important. And that is where chaplaincy becomes very important, because as a chaplain lives with these students in a learning institution, they are able to help these students know the kind of holistic kind of living. And so they do what we call integration of faith and learning. Integration of faith and learning, which cannot be done in a day. It cannot be done on a Friday or on a Wednesday. Someone just comes, preaches and goes home. That will not help, you know. And this doesn't mean that a chaplain replaces a counselor in a learning institution. It doesn't work like that. Chaplaincy bases mostly on pastoral care and pastoral counseling. And in the pastoral counseling is where now the ministry of presence is practiced. So the counselor's work, or the counselor's role, is not interfered with at all. Because we know sometimes people ask, is it, do we just do the psychological? Do we just do the spiritual? Do we just do where is the balance? And I always say, everything is important. The spiritual is important. The psychological is also important. Let's take an example. A student comes to me today and they are having issues with, lately I have been having students with issues with sexual addictions. Now, if a student comes to me with an issue of sexual addictions, I will not just pray for them and tell them, you know, this is going to die. I pray for them and let them go. That cannot work. And of course, traditionally, that is what has been done. If you go to a pastor today and you have an issue, the first thing they do is they take their Bible, they read for you a scripture, they encourage you through the scripture, they pray for you, and they wish you well. Doesn't work the same way in chaplaincy. Because if a student comes to me with an addiction issue, for example, I have to help them understand, how did the addiction grow? And if it is a pattern that came up, how do we undo the pattern? That cannot be a pray and go away thing. That does not underestimate the power of prayer. It just means that this thing is very holistic, that you have to do the psychological, you have to do the spiritual, you have to be present and listen and all that. That, in a nutshell, is what chaplaincy is in learning institutions, that we sit with students, we walk with them, we journey with them, we guide them and model what faith is. Now, allow me to tell you something a little bit about our generation today, the generation we are raising. Did you know that between the people between 29 to 1 year old are actually 62% of the Kenyan population? Did you know that? So that means that the majority of the people we are dealing with are people who are younger, and we have to kind of try to help them live and do life in this generation, even though we are not exactly in their shoes. Now, I brought this up because I want to talk about how somebody becomes a chaplain. Does anyone just wake up in the morning and say, today I want to be a chaplain, I'm a chaplain, and they become a chaplain and they go around telling everyone I am a chaplain? And the answer is no. Number one thing, for you to be a chaplain, you have to have a calling. And I will share with you in the second episode, I'll share with you how I became a chaplain and why I knew that actually I am called into chaplaincy. Number one thing, for you to be a chaplain, you have to have a calling. You are going to offer the ministry of presence to people. And some of these people will be even on their deathbeds. You get a student and they have completely lost it in life. All they're thinking about is suicide. They feel stuck. They feel, I can't move, I can't go, I am stuck. And their world is so dark. So you're going to offer presence to them. Some of them will have this back and forth thing where today they are okay, tomorrow they are not. Especially students who are in addictions. Remember, addictions, like I said, that is the example I'll use mostly because most students I'm dealing with are struggling with different kinds of addictions. So you get this student, today we have made some progress, they are here. Tomorrow they are there. Today they are here, tomorrow. It's like that thing of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, yet you still have to support them. And that means you really have to have a calling into chaplaincy. You are going to live with staff. You are going to live with people who sometimes will want more. Someone was telling me the other day, you chaplains, you are just demigods. The standards is too high. The other day I was seeing the Gen Zs with this trend of the bar was too high, So the standard is too high for a chaplain. If you don't have a calling, if you are not convicted and convinced that this is what God is leading you to, chaplaincy is very, very frustrating because people want a whole of you. People want an emotional part of you as you support them. They want a psychological part of you in understanding them. They want a pastoral part of you. And so that is number 2 that comes in. For you to be a chaplain, you need training. I know sometimes we think about it and we say, as long as I have this calling, the disciples never underwent any training and they were able to do ministry and things just flow, Now, I told you, 62% of our generation are Gen Zs, Gen Alpha, and Gen Beta. These people are different from the millennials, the Gen Xers, and the baby boomers, plus the silent generation. They are different in terms of their advancement in technology, for example. A baby today who is 6 months old can actually operate a phone. Did you know that? That a child is born and the only thing that soothes the child, when you are growing up, if for example you are a baby boomer right now, your mother used to tie you on the back. Kenyans, you understand this. They tie you on their back and then they do their jobs here and there. They do chores in the house with you and then finally they put you down to sleep. Today, for a child to sleep, they need cocomelon. They need something. They watch cartoons. So cartoons soothe them. So these children have been born and the first thing that went into their hands was a tablet, it was an iPad, it was a phone, it was a laptop, and everything in between. Now, if you don't have training on how to really gel with these people who are so technologically advanced, you get frustrated as a chaplain because then they look at you, they imagine, do you even know what you're doing, Sometimes the other day I was listening to these children teach me about the brain rot. I know you guys have heard about the Italian brain rot, and with these characters who are like who have been crafted and they have those names Tralalo, Tralala, Ballerina, Cappuccino, and all that. And then I was thinking, if I am a chaplain and I don't even understand that language, then what happens, So the thing is for us to understand that we need training. So you need a calling, you need training, and you need confirmation. And how confirmation comes about is how people are able to also identify and call it out in you that I see you are able to do this. I see you are able to help, you are able to hold space for people, because chaplaincy is purely a ministry of presence. So number three, you need confirmation. So I talked about you need a calling, you need training, and then you need confirmation. So confirmation will be by people. You have gone through the training. If you want to be a chaplain in learning institutions, you have gone through the training. You know how to maneuver through the different issues that learners face, depending on where you want to do your chaplaincy. Like I do chaplaincy in higher learning institutions, so I'm basically dealing with teenagers who are between 18 years. I think the youngest who comes to the university is 17 and a half, 17 about there, and then up to 30, let's say up to 30, because most of the postgraduate students are not fully in school. But yeah, so you need confirmation. People will tell you, if you're a very impatient person, then they will tell you, yes, you have the training, but you need to do this and that and the other for you to get to where you want to be as a chaplain. So that is purely how chaplaincy is practiced. Now, I was also talking about why you need, why chaplaincy is important. I talked about chaplaincy being important because people need acceptance, people need to be listened to, and generally, this is where I will end at. The world is very dark and the world is very cold. People are very mean. Today, when I was growing up, I actually grew up in a senior pastor's house. I'll talk about that in my second episode. But growing up, my dad was a people's person, and I would see people coming to our home being given free food. Like somebody just comes and says, Pastor Bomet, my dad is called Bomet, and they're like, Pastor Bomet, I don't have food. I mean, we don't have anything to eat. Can you share what you have cooked? And my dad would give out uncooked food. Like if you're coming for flour, they give you 2 kgs free. He will give you maize. He will ask us to go to the farm and get you some veggies and all that. But today the world is so cold. People are very individualistic. People are very materialistic. It is me, myself, and I. It is me dying with my burdens. It is you carrying your own burdens. That is why chaplaincy becomes very important. These children who are coming with the different needs, remember I told you, learners are a people too. So they are coming to you. Some of them are coming from dysfunctional families, broken families that is. Others are coming, their parents have a lot of money, they have given them money, but there is no emotional connection. They cannot connect with their parent emotionally. Some of them are coming intellectually, they are very sharp, everything is very good, yet spiritually they are very dry, yet they have that identity crisis or the crisis of faith where they are wondering, is it even worth it believing in any deity? So as a chaplain, as a country and as learning institutions, we need chaplaincy services because children come as a people too. You have that student who is scoring an A in high school, that student who is exceeding expectation, that university student who is also scoring A's in every unit and doing very well in their course, yet they are breaking inside. Intellectual intelligence is not the only thing that is needed. So chaplaincy is very, very necessary today. And also just having someone you can lean on, just having someone like in a learning institution, a student just knows that I can go to Pastor Debbie's office and I can just talk about my issues openly. I can just pour my heart. She will not do the deep professional counseling, but I have somewhere I can talk, and this person will leave me in a place where I have problem solved my issue. Remember, the issues that the generation is there. I'll talk about this generational thing a lot in future, in the next episodes. But remember, the things that they are dealing with are very different from what was there in the past, for example. So they need somebody who they can just, some of them just need somebody to look at them and tell them, you look nice today. Just compliment and affirmation. And for them, it is a big deal. It is a very big deal. When we were growing up, sometimes you would just be seen and not heard, and you're okay because that was how life was. But today, the young person will ask you, are you not seeing me? I mean, am I not a person? And they will debate and they will tell you this, that, and the other. So chaplaincy in our learning institutions is very, very important. The rates of, the way the world is very cold, the rates of suicide, the addictions that are everywhere, the rates of negligence from parental responsibilities and all that, all these just teaches us and reminds us that we need chaplains. We need people who are called, people who are trained, and people who really have the heart to listen and listen. Listen to listen, not listen to reply. See you in my next episode as we'll be talking about why I chose to become a chaplain. Bye-bye.